So, herzlich willkommen zu meinem Stream. Ich hoffe, es läuft alles. Matthias und ich werden jetzt ein bisschen restreamen auf seinem Kanal, den, was war's, Subscriber Town Hall heißt, ne, Matthias?
Ja,
Willkommen zu meinem
Subscriber
Stream.
Town Hall, ja.
Es läuft alles. Oh, ich höre mich selber, sehr schön. So, jetzt nicht mehr.
Was?
Ich habe mich gerade selber gehört, weil ich meinen eigenen Stream anhatte.
Hey, wake
Was
up.
ein Streamer?
Ja,
Jetzt mal direkt draufgehen. So.
so, ja. Was machen wir? Einfach ein bisschen angucken gleich, wenn es losgeht. Ganz spontan, also.
Hallo.
Hallo
Mahlzeit.
Javik, wir gucken gleich das Town Hall an. Also, wie streamen, das wollte ich jetzt gerade machen. Und das mit dem Joystick, da kommen wir noch dazu irgendwie. Wenn nicht der Herr Matthias, der kann dir da auch mal helfen.
Okay,
sowas.
super.
Ja. Auch während den Streams oder so. Aber jetzt gerade machen wir gleich das erstmal, da hören wir dann zu. Und dann, wenn du dann noch da bist, Szene. Ich glaube, eine Stunde geht es normalerweise nur, oder? Denke ich mal.
Ja, okay. Dann würde ich mich einfach mal unten in den AFK begeben und warte dann noch auf euch, ne?
Jo, okay. Bis nachher
Alles
dann.
klar, danke schon mal, ne? Bis nachher.
Ciao.
User
Oh.
left your channel.
Hab ich was verpasst?
Nee, man hatte Probleme mit den Trustmaster 1600er. Und deswegen. So.
Was ist Tono?
Das ist so wie Reverse Verse, nur für Subscriber eigentlich, mit Fragen. Livestream.
User
Ah,
joined your
okay.
channel.
Das ist das.
Hallo Chili
Ja.
Pepper.
Die Pepper, ja, ich werde gleich.
Oh Scheiße, ich habe hier nichts zu trinken. Was soll denn der Scheiß?
Was du Schönes?
Wenn gleich, wir streamen jetzt gleich den Town Hall da, Subscriber. Ich hol mal kurz mal was zu trinken.
Townhall Subscriber.
Oh, PTU ist draußen.
Was?
Spaß. So ein Mann.
Wollte gerade gucken gehen.
Draußen nicht.
So, bin wieder da. Nur was trinken
Oh.
holen müssen. So.
Die verarscht
Jetzt.
ein.
Ja, ich bin ein böser Mensch.
Darum Chili davor, ne?
Die Frage ist, kann jemand mal gucken, ob meine Streams auf beiden Kanälen laufen?
Warte, ich schau.
So war das nicht gedacht. Da öffnet man der Fire Stream und dann öffnet er das. So.
Ist live überall.
Okay, aber YouTube?
Auch.
Gut.
Nach Nachtschwärmerei.
Ne, dürfte eigentlich nicht mehr so heißen.
Live.
Dürfte eigentlich nicht mehr. Subscriber Restream.
Jetzt Let's Play. Starcitizen Alpha 2.5.0. Dienstag. Nachtschwärmer Stream.
Ne, heißt aber ganz anders bei mir, wenn ich es öffne. Starcitizen Restream Subscriber Town Hall. Deutsches Galaber. Müsste das heißen.
Der Update ist die gleiche Käse drauf. Ich kann nicht zeigen, aber.
Ja, noch geht's noch nicht los. Matthias, ich glaube noch im Arena Command oder wie war das?
Jupp.
Dann warten wir mal noch ab.
YouTube auch.
Ja, stimmt, da heißt es nicht so. Okay.
Gewonnen. 12:1.
Nice.
Gratuliere.
Aber warum hat es das nicht richtig geupdatet hier? Gleich mal umbenennen, oder? Oh, danke für den Follow. Danke, danke. Ja, wir warten gerade noch, bis losgeht. Auf YouTube scheint es noch nicht richtig zu heißen, komischerweise, obwohl ich es umbenannt hatte. Darul. Und danke Makro für den Post. So. Oh, es geht los.
Welcome everybody to another edition of the Subscribers Town Hall this month for October. I am your host, Community Manager Jared Huckabee, and if you've never seen a Subscribers Town Hall before, that is where we allow our development subscribers, which are those members who contribute a monthly fee to the continuing development of Starcitizen, to ask questions live of members of CIG development staff. And this month we have members of the LA development team, so I'd like to take a few moments to introduce them and let them tell you a little bit about what it is they do. Immediately to my right, this is Mr. Sean Tracy. How you doing, Sean?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Awesome.
So why don't you tell the folks, because we have a lot of new backers, a lot of new subscribers even. Why don't you tell them a little bit about what you do? Give them your title and what you do for Starcitizen.
Okay. So I'm the technical content director, technical director of content. Basically, makes me responsible for everything that comes out of a DCC tool or a digital content creation tool. And goes into the engine. So basically, any of the content that we're making is my responsibility to some degree or
Making
another.
it work.
Yeah, making it work, making it perform well, making sure we can actually do it, making sure it's scalable. There's a lot of it.
Gotcha. So the writers, the designers, they come up with these crazy things, and
Exactly.
then you're involved when it has to
Is
go into
how
the
do we
game and actually
do it?
work.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
where you
Is
come.
make it all. Yeah.
All right. Cool.
So yeah,
Bring-
somebody else
he does a
somebody
lot.
else promises and
He does a few things.
and we deliver. Yeah.
I mean,
that's
it
the
seems like
idea.
a lot, but it's just space. So basically,
Yeah.
anything
Yeah,
that
exactly.
can be made in
Anything
space
in the universe.
needs to
Easy,
transfer
just make
to
empty
the screen,
space and
that's what
everything's
he
good.
does.
So people come to you and go, Sean, I got this great idea. I got this thing I want to do. And
Yeah, like a worm.
like a worm, like a giant sandworm.
Yeah, like a worm.
And it's your responsibility to make that work.
And it's like, how do we make a worm work? I'm like, a what?
All right. Now, immediately to your right is Mr. Forrest Stefan. How you doing, Forrest?
Excellent.
Yeah.
As always. Yep.
You did some work on that sandworm, didn't you?
Oh, we all worked on that sandworm. It was a great team effort. I mean,
Right.
how do you get that thing wiggling through sand and jumping out and looking scary and looking
And not
great?
looking like a
Nope.
like
a worm from Tremors.
A worm from Tremors.
Yes, we. All right. So why don't you take a few moments and tell the folks watching what it is you do for Starcitizen in general?
Forrest, I'm CG supervisor, and my primary responsibilities is kind of working along Sean. And while Sean's getting all this stuff and making sure it's working in the engine, I spend a lot of time on the actual art side working with the graphics engineers and all the artists, ensuring that when we do get the content into the game, it visually can look the way that our art directors and Chris Roberts envision it to. So kind of the visual fidelity of the tech content getting into the game is kind of what I'm more responsible
All right.
for.
And what are some of the things you've worked on recently besides the sandworm?
Besides the sandworm, so we're continually evolving our modular system for the characters. We're continually pushing the visual fidelity on the characters, which I think we saw with the Sand Nomad. We're really starting to see these next-gen looking characters come in, and so a lot of the tech that really drives that. And then also kind of the workflow for the artists, trying to simplify the workflow so they can do things faster, and they can make it look better, right? Which is always a chess. We always want to push the fidelity, and we want to streamline the efficiency so we can do things quicker and create more content. That way, when the players play these games in the universe, they have plenty of art content to work for, and when we can do that with our, with the amount of artists that that we have.
We have a habit of making things look as well as they possibly can in this game.
Well, that's the challenge, right? We want, we're creating this MMO type, and we also have our single player, but at the same time, we don't want those kind of stereotypical MMO graphics,
Yeah.
right? The challenge is how to create an MMO with tons of players in the world, tons of customization, but still keep a visual fidelity of any other AAA title.
Gotcha. And last but certainly not least, on the end, Mr. EKD, Eric Chiron Davis himself. Eric, how you doing, man?
I'm living the dream. That's how I'm doing. How are you doing?
Somebody's
I'm
dream.
doing great.
I'm doing great.
Nothing.
I'm having a good time.
So you
Yo,
are
yo,
a
yo,
senior
treasures,
producer
yeah,
for
bro.
Star
Yeah,
Citizen
treasure.
out of our LA office here. What does a senior producer do?
Senior, what is this? That's a great
The
question.
Life of
What
Sandwich,
Can you
so,
tell me? What
Yes, cameras aren't on. I actually just really wanted to.
I'm really interested.
We've all been wondering for a while. So
Ja,
It's
ja, eigentlich.
anything, and
Irgendwie sowas.
everything
So.
is of the role of a producer.
Gucken
I'm
Town
senior
Hall
producer in
Subscriber
LA,
Edition
I also
an.
senior producer for Austin, so I work with Jake Ross in Austin Studio.
Auf
My
Englisch.
job is to
Ja.
help oversee any pipeline that's in Austin, work alongside these wonderful guys, try to keep them.
Das ist
as
euer
happy
Englisch
as I
besser
can
wie
be,
meins.
which is difficult at times because we're all working so hard.
Aber das ist
And
nicht
then
schwer.
Work alongside my production staff,
No,
planning,
no,
organizing,
no.
scheduling the best that we can, helping provide context and priorities, or working alongside the leads, and really all the pipelines for us here in LA, just kind of being the point of contact. I have peers at other studios that are also senior producers that I work alongside, working with Aaron Roberts on the global production of this whole saga.
And so, a lot of it kind of ties in together, right? You have the how to get the assets into the engine, and then you have how do you make them look pretty, but somebody's got to track these thousands, hundreds of thousands of objects, right? And that's where production comes in, right? They help us in
We do our
software like
best. We do our
Shotgun
Kann ich ja
software,
jetzt nicht
right,
mehr
is something that
fluchen,
we
wenn
use
ich
that
zocke.
we
Nee,
kind
ich geh runter.
it allows us to
Viel
track
Spaß
our
beim
assets,
Gucken.
and it allows us to visually store the status of the asset, right? And so
Wie,
we're
was beim
also
Gucken? Ich
helping,
dachte, ihr zockt.
everyone else to
Ja,
ensure
ich
that
zock
we
jetzt.
have
Die
a way
anderen
to
gucken
track
ja
the
nur.
assets, store the
Wenn ich dann da
assets,
vor
and
mich
then
hin
organize everything
ächze
that
und
we
schreie
help
und
us when we
fluche.
are
Wieso, was
short on
guckt ihr denn?
resources,
Verstehe ich nicht.
Subscriber Town Hall.
that we bounce it out so we can hit our
Was
deadlines,
heißt?
right?
Was ist
Yeah,
das?
resource management's pretty-
Subscriber
pretty key,
reverse the verse
but obviously
sozusagen.
working with these guys who know how long it actually takes.
Kann ich das
It's
auch
not
sehen oder
like
nur für die-
we're
Ja,
gonna
Stick
hopefully go
Community.
up and strategize and
Ganz
go,
normal.
okay,
Stick
who do you need
Community
to- how much do you need to get
Twitch
that
Channel.
done, or not get that done, or,
So,
do we need to work
ich habe
for
erst
Twitch
heute
hours or not?
geklatscht,
Okay,
weißt du,
cool,
und
right,
deswegen
that's-
frage ich. Ich kenne mich ja nicht aus, wie es
Ja, ja,
das ist.
genau, Tilly.
All right, so we have three guests on the show today who all specialize in some way, shape, or form in making Star Citizen a
Wie du es
reality.
immer wieder
So
versuchst.
we are taking
Immer wieder.
questions live from our RSI chat.
Chili, wie
You
heißt
can
du bei
join the
Ubisoft?
RSI chat if you're a backer
Ja, auch
and
Chili
subscriber
Was?
at
Auch Chili
robertspaceindustriescom.
Palmer.
When you go up to the top,
Auch
you see
Chili
community,
Palmer.
and then you see chat. In there is a subscribers tab.
Ja,
the
ich guck mal rein,
subscribers
schnell.
tab is the only place we're taking questions from for today because this is a subscribers town hall. So please put your questions in there and preface the question with the word question in capital letters and brackets. It helps me dig them out
Matthias,
through
war
the,
schon mal
other
irgendwas
chat that's
Interessantes
going on
jetzt?
in
Jetzt
the
sind sie
area.
ja gerade vorgestellt, wer sie sind.
So right off the bat, we have some questions coming in.
Yeah, check.
Sean Tracy, jeez.
First up.
What a surprise.
First up,
Ryan.
first up.
I have a question for Sean.
That's who I always ask my question. That's who I ask my
Well, yeah, because
Sean-
I just give it all away, right?
Yeah. The lighting in the CitizenCon demo looked absolutely amazing. You
Sorry,
were,
the which? The lighting.
the lighting.
The lighting.
The lighting.
Der Lightning.
The lighting. in the
Das Licht war
CitizenCon
gut.
demo looked absolutely
In der
amazing.
Demo wohl.
You
Fragt
mentioned
einer.
getting the great warm sunset for free, which implies that there's now some major systemic differences in the lighting model that there used to be versus what there is now. Can you touch on the difference, and will we see that in 2.6, 3.0?
Yeah, it's a good question. So what I really meant about getting it for free is, yeah, it's in a system. It's part of the positioning of where the sun is versus where your camera is on the planet, and how exactly those rays are actually getting scattered through the atmosphere. So what I mean by being free is that you don't ever, there's no artist going in and saying sky is blue, sky is green, sky is, at 6 a.m. It looks like a sunset or a sunrise or whatever it's supposed to be. So this happens automatically. So it's a massive switch to how the engine was doing it before. What's interesting is we used to fake the exact same values within our time of day system. So the typical CryEngine system was a time of day system. And what it is, it's 0, 12, 24 hours. You had a whole timeline of when the sun would be at a certain position above your head. So depending on that position, you could keyframe a whole ton of values. again, the sky color, the clouds, how bright the sun is, all kinds of, there really was like 120 different properties. It's pretty
Yeah,
crazy.
anybody that's
time
spent
of
any
day.
time in our community making these CryEngine videos has played with time
Right,
of
we
day
played with time
quite
of
a
day.
bit.
Yeah, and
So what this actually does is it kind of, it's not that we've removed time of day, it's that we've decoupled the sun from a skybox. So no longer is it 6 a.m. anymore. It's only 6 a.m. because of where that particular sun is versus where you
Aber
are.
so wie ich es gerade verstehe, redet er eigentlich das, was man auch in der Rödersrunde hatte, dass
Time
er
zones across a
das
planet.
einfach nach der Sonne betrifft, wo die steht, wie die Beleuchtung ist, dass sie gar nicht mehr das wirklich selber ausleuchten müssen, wenn ich das jetzt so richtig verstehe. Oder, ja, Matthias ist so gut zusammengefasst, glaube ich, was er gerade gesagt hat.
Two-planet transition in their
Yes.
little tech demo. You saw that the sun was pretty high up in the sky on one planet, but time didn't switch, or just our positioning, our relative positioning to the other planet switched. So it was sunset in that particular location on that one planet that we went to, but it was middle of the day.
Same star, two different planets.
Exactly. So it just becomes a positional thing on that entity rather than a key-framed thing on a track, if that makes any sense.
Now, is it just position, or are there atmospheric conditions that will determine how that light?
So many atmospheric conditions. Oh my goodness. So Carson Wenzel, again, one of our heroic programmers.
Hi, Carson.
And Carson was
He's
at
watching.
Crytek before. He wrote a lot of the atmospheric stuff within time of day for the CryEngine. So to do it sort of properly.
Damit habe ich ja
I'm sure
gerechnet,
you
dass mit dem
guys
Licht
do.
ist.
So what we did was make it so
Ist
that
klar.
the atmosphere has a
Planeten sich bewegen.
pre-computed gradients that
Ja,
we can put into
dann
it.
ändert
So
sich auch das Licht auf
the
dem
artist
Planeten.
is actually aligning
Richtig.
what that atmosphere does based on the sun color that's coming into it. So we can make an atmosphere a little more green. We can make it a little more, red. You can change the composition of the atmosphere. You can make it thicker. You can make it thinner. It's really, really important because you can go. on
Das
different
ist cool,
planets
das
and
hat man,
some
glaube ich,
need
mehr
to look
diskutiert in der
like
Rödersrunde,
the
dass wirklich
sky
die,
above you, but other ones are gonna
die
have
Farbe
different
von der
atmosphere.
Atmosphäre,
You
wie
can see all
dicht
the
sie
stars,
ist
you
und
can see
alles,
most
dass
of
sie
the
das
stuff
ändern
that's just
können und natürlich auch
beyond
der
space.
Lichteinfall dann anders
So
ist.
this was a pretty
Yep.
big system that Carson worked on quite a bit. And
Das
it's
ist ziemlich gut.
Ziemlich awesome.
get all this real-time,
Für viele.
atmospheric scattering
Vor allem auch einfacher für die Entwickler.
free, depending on what positioning
Die müssen nicht alles extra ausleuchten.
from the system. I think that's the biggest
I like
strength
the way
of
you
the
use
whole thing.
the term free.
Well, it kind of
because
is.
it's free. Well, it's
It
not
is.
free
I-
because
it is, but that's
Carson
what started the
busted his
question, right?
ass.
Yeah,
Working on it
mean,
for however long.
believe
So
me,
it's not free by any.
Freebies are so hard to
by
come
any-
by.
You went,
It's great to
you
have,
you went from
have
a
wins.
system that you had to create this skybox, this texture set for the morning and for the afternoon and for the evening, and then you had to have these reflection pass textures that had to get baked for every situation, and then what were you going to do, blend through them all? Then what happens if you change your ecosystem? To have an artist have to manually make every single sky for every single possibility just wasn't feasible.
No, not at all.
And
right?
so
Ja,
this
was der
system
Forrest gerade
allowed
sagt, darum
us to
geht's.
have these
Es wird
endless
alles
possibilities
automatisiert und
without having- with
du
having
kannst
very
es viel leichter designen und musst nicht alles manuell machen.
Ja, das ist auf jeden Fall besser.
Artist Labor, Arbeitszeit geht's, darum geht's. Und das heißt, es wird viel schneller fertig, die ganzen Sonnensysteme und das.
Ja. Brauchen sie nicht extra ausleuchten, jeden Berg oder so, das wäre übel Arbeit.
The performance of this particular atmosphere system makes it so that we can change all that in real time, have multiple planets. It's so much higher performant and higher quality than the Crisis stuff that was in there before.
Ja, und Perform, es schreibt auch, das ist auch viel besser für einen Rechner eigentlich, weil es besser performt,
less labor.
als wenn alles extra ausgeleuchtet wäre.
That way we get things to the backers faster and make it better.
But there is a drawback to all of this, right? And the drawback is that there's though the artist can change some of these atmospheric conditions, it's not all of them. So and this is the mark I think of a really good graphics programmer is that they'll give you enough rope, but not so much that you'll hang yourself. Yeah, exactly. So and the best ones, and I shouldn't call Carson graphical. He was far beyond just graphics, but
Hi, Carson.
it's like, yeah, I mean, that's a big part of it.
Did you think when you first came on board Starcitizen, did you think we'd have this system in place now?
This had to be in place. There was
Fixes so.
always the idea that time of day was very static, and static in terms of you can't go out and fly to the sun. It's just a point in the sky that's always going to be there. So yeah, I absolutely expected that there would have to be some level of salinity.
This is a question for me, I guess. The Polaris is listed as having size 10 torpedo launchers, but the PDF manual states size 6 torpedoes. Could you clarify? Yes, actually, this is the camera. The torpedo system changed. It was size 6 in the old system. The system changed. It was size 10. That change made the website. It did not make the PDF before it went to printers. So those new brochures that are going out with those who have purchased the Polaris will have the correction in the brochure. It is a size 10 torpedo launcher. So.
Ja, nach dem alten war es Size
Alright, another
6,
question for
jetzt
you
halt
guys.
Size
We've
10
seen
nach
rolling
dem
hills and
neuen Ding.
mountains, i.e. basic height map stuff. Do you plan for much more complex worlds? Cliffs with overhangs, like maybe multi-Z coordinates, bizarre stuff like we would see in an alien sci-fi fantasy, worlds full of rock towers or other bizarre stuff requiring a far more advanced algorithm.
I think so. I think that one thing that we also really stride ourselves on is not going 110% procedural, still having some artist ability to go in and kind of customize certain layouts in certain areas to really highlight the location that you're traveling to. Right. So I'd imagine that we're going to continually press on as far as making more and more interesting landscapes with the procedural stuff, and then we'll also have a way to artists to go in and really make something alienistic and special for certain locations.
Procedural is a tool. It's not the destination. It's the thing we built.
I think it gets us like 90% of the way there, right? It gets us very close to what we need. And
I like the term procedurally assisted.
Procedurally assisted. Procedurally assisted.
You heard it here.
You heard it here, folks.
Trademark.
I love it.
Let's see.
Procedurally assisted. Yeah. Actually, a little more about the atmosphere. Let's talk a bit more about that, because I don't think people appreciate everything that actually goes into this. No, seriously, because there's a lot of work there. One of the things that you have to consider with the atmosphere too is indirect lighting on a planet. So one of the things that we used to do in the CryEngine was we had an ambient level of lighting, and this is all the lighting that happens when a light isn't directly touching something, but it's actually shadowed, right? So if you think about it, the atmosphere is the sky and the atmosphere is the thing that generates most of that. So actually what Karsten's done is he computes an irradiance volume basically around the entire planet, so that all the locations of it get the indirect lighting that's correct for that location. So it takes the terrain into account, it takes the atmosphere into account and everything. And then the direct lighting also changes a little bit depending on how it comes through the atmosphere. So again, there's a lot that goes into this atmosphere, and I'm not sure it's fully appreciated,
that's
but
awesome,
I want to.
because it's almost like simulating bounce lighting a little bit, right?
It's
kind of
simulating
what it's
global
doing, right?
illumination.
Yeah,
Is what it is.
that's
And why do we do all that? Why don't we just mail it in?
Because otherwise everything would be black. Like if you put a shadow on it, black. There'd be nothing there, because what shades it, what amount of lighting would be there. Every other, I shouldn't say every other game, but a lot of the current and previous generation games had one level of ambient term, and that would mean that if it wasn't getting direct light, this would be the color that it was getting shaded with. But it's like one color, one setting, and that's it. I mean, you might animate it, you might color grade it, but it's not a great solution.
How awesome is that as an artist for us?
well, it's essential. It's essential to make things look right and to look good. So it's it was great that it got implemented, because it people are commenting on how great that PlanetSide stuff looks, and what Sean's saying, there's a lot to it, and it's the little things like that that become very big things visually.
And it saves them time. Otherwise, it sucks right now, because now when you're in a station, like we're working in stations and things, we have a system called environment probes that we use for the ambient lighting everywhere else but on a planet. But when you're working on a planet, it's like, oh, forget about the probe. Oh, yeah, right, we've got the irradiance here. Oh, no worries about probes. But then when you're up working on the stations now, it's like, oh, shit, I gotta put...
Wenn ich das richtig verstehe, ist es schwerer in der Station das Lighting zu machen, um
the
Planeten
last
inzwischen.
episode of Subscribers Town Hall here on CF.
If they can't handle that,
Die letzte Episode.
Was ist die letzte Episode? Was?
Er hat gerade einen Witz gemacht, dass ihr schaut gerade die letzte Episode von Subscriber Town Hall.
Where is the female avatar?
Female Avatar.
blame Stephen Bender. Blame Stephen Bender.
So there's a lot that actually goes into the female avatar. It's not just making the model and getting in there, right? There's the whole animation system that also needs to work with these characters. So currently there is a significant amount of work going on with the animation side to make sure that that character is going to be working properly, because we do have the female model done. We're currently in the process of taking a ton of clothing that we've made for the male character and then basically refitting it and recreating it to work with the female characters. That way everything is going to be modular across the board, even though the female and the male have different size fitting clothing to make sure it conforms to the body properly. But currently the artists are making all the female clothing. We got our female model looking absolutely fantastic. We got all the female heads running in parallel with all the male heads, and then the last thing that we really will need to get working is all the animation side stuff, which I'm sure Sean can
For perspective, so we have a character, we have a female character. How many people will touch this character? How many in this company, right? And we can just talk departments, touch this one extra character to add to our game.
So on the high level,
and I don't need names, right? But
on the
just
high
department.
level, you have your animation discipline is significant to it. You have your tech animation discipline, right, to make sure that everything's working properly and technically set up
which are
correctly.
different teams.
Different teams.
Animation's still in their title, but they're
That's
different
right.
teams.
That's right. Because animation is responsible for the actual animation and the movement. Tech is responsible for getting it working, along with animation a little bit, right? And then you have your kind of tech artists on more of the art side to making sure that everything is working properly, efficiently, draw crawls are correct, and you could make sure we could populate with plenty of characters without breaking the game. And then you have your character artists themselves. And then you have your concept art that needs to make sure that everything looks right before we go spend the weeks it takes to actually create something properly. You have your character art director, right, Josh Herman. You have the whole head department, which we have Three Lateral and Imaginarium and a whole group of people in house that run that whole area. It's a massive undertaking, and then you have people just doing the sculpting of the character and low poly.
Tech design touches it, doesn't it, for loadout?
Then once the character's done and it's working, and then yes, you have to get it over to the tech design, and then you have to figure out, okay, how do the attachments work? How do things get swapped out? How do you put this on you? We have the females in the marine outfit, right? We got to make sure that we set up all the item attachments on all the armor pieces so it can grab everything properly, because the proportions are slightly different than the male. So we got to make sure that when you reach for that gun, right, it's gonna work, right, as opposed to all this stuff. So, and
then QA.
And then
We'll
once
make
it's
sure
done
it's not
with
broke.
all the
All
tech
those people
stuff,
touch it, didn't
then you
break
get
it.
it to QA, and then get all that working, and then you throw it in the game, and then absolutely nothing works.
Yep.
And then
you might have code bugs, you might have things you got to fix.
Then you
because it
got
doesn't work.
bugs, so you
so,
gotta.
so the reason I asked is I was on a panel we were talking about second character in a video game, any video game ever, right? And the question was why is there only one in there? I don't get it. I don't understand why there's only one in there. And somebody made just a random comment, was like, oh, it's hard. No, it's not just hard, right? And obviously what we're doing is hard. We got a lot of people, so there's a lot of things you can say against that. We're working, we've got a lot of great people on it, but it is a very intricate process to do it right, to get a second character in there, and what we're doing is we're not just getting a second character in there. These guys are building entire pipelines to make this whole thing efficient and faster for future ones. We're doing all the characters at the same time. It's not we're making one, and then when we're done, we'll think about doing another one.
And one thing we've learned from our experience of developing this game from scratch is it's really important to get your infrastructure in place and to prove out all of your techniques and your workflows and your methods, because if you try to do two things in parallel before you've proven one method, you could be doing them both wrong. And we want to be as efficient as possible, so we want to make sure we get it right, and then we move on to the next challenge.
A lot of great lessons.
So and that's pretty much the reason the female isn't there right now. So just to give you a real some details on that, anyways. The male, so the female and male skeletons are two different skeletons, so conceptually completely different characters. Could be a Van Duel, could be so the implementation of that second skeleton, just like you're saying, is though it's it's a female, it's just.
Wenn ich das jetzt so richtig raushöre, ist das Problem an Female, dass das ein anderer Charakter oder komplettes Gerücht ist anders, die Animationen müssen angepasst werden, etc. Deswegen braucht es so lange.
Animations too, but we've also got a lot of authored animations for the male. And I mean, the first game, if you're ever going to implement a female and they can't do everything that the male can do, in terms of animation, in terms of using weapons, in terms of equipping
Any
outfits.
gameplay.
Oh my goodness, the blowback would be awful. So you have to make sure you are at parity with that male. So because they're two different skeletons, we've got all of a sudden we have to do different animation sets. So the male in Starcitizen currently has about 6,000 animations or so. Now they're not all in the PU, they're not all seen necessarily by the players at this exact moment, but they will be. And what that means is, yeah, that's 6,000 other animations now on the female, and that has to be in parity. And what Forrest was saying was, you can't figure out the problems on on two similar systems at the same time. Rather, get one locked down. So what he means is that we're really not even finished the male, right? We're not finished a male human completely, where he does cover correctly, he does prone correctly, he does mantling correct.
Und sie sind mit dem männlichen Charakter ja auch noch nicht ganz fertig mit den Animationen und das muss auch erst fertig sein, bevor sie das da übertragen können.
Once you're there, boom, do the female, because then it's just a matter of transferring animation. We call it, right now we've got a whole bunch of females within the Squadron 42. Yep. And a lot of them are transferred over from the male and then feminized a bit, or they are brought in from motion capture data. But again, trying to do two at the same time without having locked down and perfected that first one is a real trick. Yep. So and we could always just bail and do the easy thing, which is, and we talked about it. We could do the very easy thing of just say, all right, females and males, exact same size. So all of a sudden you share.
Das war auch der Grund, warum sie Squadron 42 noch nicht gezeigt haben.
Weil die weiblichen Animationen nicht passen.
Ja.
Oder allgemeine Animationen.
Teilweise die männlichen auch nicht.
I feel like, and you know, everyone in charge and the way it went feels that that's important enough to take our time with it. Yeah, have the male locked down and then transfer it on.
And for those wanting to see more about, perfecting the animations, check out this week's Bug Smashers.
Oh, cool.
It's just about the vaulting animations.
Yep.
Oh, about the vaults.
Yeah.
Das hast du ja voll gestreamt, Bug Smash, oder?
Ja, das war, hat er gesagt, es ist da, aber es hat eben noch nicht gut ausgeschaut.
Ja, das war so unterbrochen, ne, weil ich so ausgesehen habe bei Bug Smash. Die Animation.
That means Vandul, Jan, all these other races that we want to do are quite easy to bring online within those systems as well.
What's the quote? The first 90% of video game development is harder than the last 90%?
Yeah, it was I think it was Tim Sweeney.
I think it was Tim Sweeney, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the best quote. It's true.
The second 90% of game development takes longer than the first 90% or something.
So it's all about getting those systems in place. Then it's to the races.
Die zweiten 90% brauchen länger als die ersten 90%.
By the way. Well, no, it was on the terrain. They asked about more complex terrain features, like caves and overhangs.
That's the
and
next
stuff like
question. That's the question I was just about to ask.
Yeah, but they already kind of asked that.
We'll ask it now. Jared, ask your question.
Well, okay, go ahead.
Das haben sie schon gefragt.
Anybody other than Sean Tracy can answer. Ooh. Following up on the procedural question, will there be underground caves to explore?
And overhangs and things that we didn't answer before, right?
Ja, das Sitcom nennen sie das.
So will there be? I can't tell you for sure how we could do it. But everybody's got to realize too, like as soon as you get into the 3D, right? As soon as it's not a 2D representation anymore, things get a lot harder because that is why the CryEngine had a voxel system before. We had a voxel system in the CryEngine where you would define an area, it would copy the terrain into a voxel, and then all of a sudden you'd start sculpting caves, and it was a really cool sort of process. The planets are not voxel. These are planets of using height maps. Yeah, meshes. So to be able to represent anything in 3D on a 2D height map is not really possible. That's not something that we can do super easy. So things like overhangs, caves, anything that goes beyond that 2D isn't really built into that system. Now, will there be? Because to make these things, you do it the typical way that games have done it in the past, where you actually make the models of this stuff. Yeah, and it's not an odd thing, and I don't think it's a cop out either by any stretch of the imagination, where you model those objects because we put tech in place so that those models now look far more part of the terrain, and it's pretty hard to tell already
just like in the Homestead demo, it's hard to tell which ones of those are actual assets that have been placed with the distribution system, or if those are actual terrain features, right? It's tricky to tell. But
Wenn ich es richtig raushöre, ist es gar nicht so einfach, weil ja die Planeten keine Voxeltechnik sind, wo sie einfach mal kurz reinhämmern können.
Ja, also nicht mit dieser prozeduralen Dings werden sie es nicht reinmachen, sondern Artist-driven. Die werden es einfach ausmodellieren und dann rein.
Ja, genau. Eigentlich wie eine Station im Grunde, dass sie dann einfach mehrere Höhlen dann reinbauen in die Landschaft. Ne? Im Grunde.
It's a good use of time, right, to go that route. But again, prototype it, get it in there, you know, and let's see how it works, you know. But yeah, art you can do pretty much caves, you can do whatever you need. So cool stuff.
Eric,
Yep.
what's your philosophy for keeping devs on task that might have many dependencies in an agile environment? Would you describe CIG's process as pure agile or some sort of hybrid? Is this person a producer?
Or wants to be a producer? That's a question I would have asked before I was in this industry. Well, first of all, there's a difference between philosophy and what's actually happening in practice, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can have philosophies all day. Production tends to have is very good at pontification, right? We can talk because that's part of our job. But generally, I judge someone based on their philosophy because that's what they'll do in emergency or chaos situations sometimes. So what is CIG's production process? It depends on the pipeline, honestly. We can't have one specific way to do everything because that's not how what we do works, or really anything works when it comes to creative projects. I've never worked on a project at any company where I had one way that worked for everybody all the time. That's not how this works.
Es geht darum, wer als Produzent arbeitet, wer an die Sache rangeht.
Live gunfire in the studio is very powerful.
So are massages.
So are massages. So yeah. So some teams are really hardcore agile, right? It really works well for them because two-week sprints is a great, right? Software development, 2-week sprints are fantastic. Art assets, that's not necessarily the best way to do agile. It doesn't work the best.
I think the perfect example would be take like either the ship pipeline or even better example, the character tasking pipeline, and then take a graphics engineer's task. So a graphics engineer is much more agile. You literally have a list of things that need to get completed, and then you queue them up in order, which is an absolute agile production method. And then you have the other route, which is more art task, which is more pipeline and disciplines, right? So you have your upstream dependency and your downstream dependency, and you start with your concept, and then you have your you have your design guide, and then you have your concept, and then you have the high-res sculpt, and then you have the game topology, and then you have your texturing, and then you have then it goes off to your animation, and then it starts branching, and you start having this tree of like parallel dependencies, and it gets a little more complicated. But so I think you're right. It really depends on the discipline that you're talking about.
And in all of our pipelines, the discovery process is very important. What we're doing across the board in certain areas is unique. Some of it's not, but most of it's very unique. Discovering things is very hard to schedule and plan and organize. You do plan for it. It's called adding time because you know it's going to happen and come. But when you're doing something unique, you can't be. We're not making houses. We're not manufacturing trailers. We're making something creative. So we have a lot of creative people. Creative people have great ideas, and sometimes their other ideas are better than their current ideas. So understanding which one's the best idea to use at the time, which one you take and put in the backlog, which one you activate on to get out the first version, right? There's all kinds of factors that go into planning, organizing, scheduling.
He's so political.
For me,
it's the way you said that. You're saying that some people have bad ideas, but you didn't say bad or oh man.
For me,
so
look at this camera. This camera's on.
No,
let's all look at this camera.
He's really good at wording it.
For me, I think understanding, working alongside your leads, working alongside your directors is absolutely key. Production, our job is to somewhat stay partially outside of the actual details because then we can look at it objectively if we get too far in. But at the same time, we need to have some basic level of knowledge, right? I always think a good producer did the work before generally, right? Either in their degree or their background. Pure business guys or girls are cool, and they have something to offer as well, but I found that they have more challenges unless they've actually done it themselves, even if it's like a school project or outside, you do a mod outside of work, right? It helps to have that level of knowledge. You can't know everything all the time, so you have to rely on your team, and there has to be a level of trust, right, between your folks. So, back to your question, what is my philosophy? My production philosophy?
I don't remember.
Well,
It was what CIG's.
Yeah. Well, the original is what's your philosophy, and then what's CIG's production practices. I'm hoping these guys probably at this point could answer what my philosophy is, but the perfect project management triangle. Of course, I talk about this quite a lot. The health of your staff, the culture that you're cultivating, the support. I'm going to bang on the table because I know you guys like that. The support system that we try to provide. Work-life balance is very important, but my philosophy is work alongside the team to get it done as fast as we can without killing anybody.
It's keeping your head afloat, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're always trying to keep track of everything that needs to get done, and a lot of things that we do we've never done before. So a lot of times it's kind of hard to give estimates or track stuff until we've done it once, and then we're like, okay, we kind of know what this is, how long this takes, and then we can kind of start doing a production roadmap, right, on to say this is when this could get done. And the more times we do it, the more metrics we have, and the more averages we have. We've done this 10 times now. We've known it's taken this much time each time. Just average that number out, and we got a pretty good idea. So, and tracking that data is what's really important. Right?
It is very important. It's very difficult without the right team, but it is very important.
Especially because we move fast.
Yeah, we do. And every time you add a new element to that process, it changes generally the bid, right? So Forrest and I were early on working together on characters when the pipeline was in its infantile stages.
Gerade, glaube ich, nicht so wirklich interessant zu übersetzen, das sind halt die Arbeitsabläufe, ne, und wie es geregelt wird.
We're so proud of that number. In our pipeline, in our process, with
Aber wenn Fragen sind, gerne stellen.
What does it take to build a character from start to finish with one artist, right? You generally do man months or by individuals.
Right.
But now, as the team's grown, as the pipeline's adjusted slightly, as things have gotten more efficient, some things have gotten a little harder, we've gotten more people in play, that changes your bids. So you start with that number, but that's probably not going to get you to the end. It might be faster, it may be slower, but it's fun.
And once you have all your tasks and your bids laid out, and then you can start doing stuff like, okay, to get all this stuff done, it's going to take until like 2022. Then you're like, okay, but we only have one resource. So what if we had 4 resources?
Correct. Yep.
And then you see how it goes, and it allows you on the production side to balance all of these, to get your numbers into when you need to release by. And obviously there's other factors like you bring on new people, there's the ramp up time, and stuff like that. So the challenge is growing a company. And still developing, at the same time, and try to keep track of everything. So it's a tough job, but
somebody's got to do it.
Somebody's got to do it.
Okay, follow-up question for Mr. Tracy. If female characters are smaller, would it not make it so that the smaller profile gives an advantage in a firefight?
It could. The thing is we've the way physics works on a character is it exists on the skeleton. So yes, you have a conceptually smaller skeleton on the female. Now, it's not dramatic enough that I would actually even make a change between the male and female, and it goes back to what I was talking about before, is an equality thing. It's not good to give a gameplay advantage just based on the sex of your character. I don't think that's fair, and it's probably it's probably primed to be argued whether or not that's the case. I tend to hate it in, there was some MMOs that I'd played in the past where it was actually the best thing to do to scale down your characters to the absolute smallest you possibly could, so that in a mass, a gaggle battle, you would be the hardest to click. Do you know what I mean? So, I get it, but I don't want to encourage it. So basically what I'm saying is that I'd prefer, and it's likely, well, it is the case right now, in the Squadron 42 female character implementation, that the actual the physics representation of that skeleton is identical to the male. So it's the exact same.
Can I just say this is one of the reasons I absolutely love this community, because immediately we started talking about min-maxing in FPS with the character. Fan-freaking-tastic.
So, jetzt habe ich es nicht richtig verstanden, Matthias. Ist das jetzt gleich oder nicht nach außen?
Es ist nicht gleich.
It's just me projecting.
I never said that. I just thought you had a thing for skinny dwarfs.
There's a difference between projecting and min-maxing. So,
Yeah, right.
I mean, you try to do both.
Also ein minimaler Unterschied ist da zwischen Female und Male.
Yep.
Look how much we learn about Sean.
Now,
I know.
what is a little weird about that is that, the hitbox...
Weil ich habe das Gefühl, der hat es wieder revidiert, die Aussage, wo er am Anfang gemacht hat.
I mean, we're talking a couple inches.
Nicht
but
ganz
it
verstanden.
might be enough that actually we want to change some things, but we would probably make it so that we have a perfect average between the two. So you make the male one a tiny bit smaller and then make the female one a tiny bit bigger so that they actually line up correctly and perfectly to each other.
It's a thing that we can address in battles.
Ja, sie wollen das, so wollen es anpassen nachher irgendwann. Momentan ist es für Squadron 42 ist es, das weibliche Modell ist ein bisschen kleiner. Aber es ist nicht viel.
Sollen sie nicht anpassen, ist schon gut, wenn Frauen da. Dafür können die Größeren vielleicht an der Rüstung tragen.
Do you think Star Citizen will use all of these cores better in the future, or will raw CPU speed still be most important?
Ach, Auslastung vom PC.
Ja, mehr Kerne. Oder mehr CPU-Speed.
Actually, I'll let Sean answer that one. 'Cause Sean has a better idea.
Better in terms of scaling, it will be to have as many cores as you can. The future of most, well, I shouldn't say that at all. You know, I just don't want to make an assumption like that. The parallelization is the big, is the big improvement as we move forward, and you'll see better and better utilization of the cores the longer we work on it. So I would say you'd want to get more cores.
I would.
But again, if there's a happy medium in there.
I know.
Where it's like, yeah, don't get anything that's crazily slow, but just completely paralyzed because it might be a lot slower. But yeah, we do a fairly good job of the multi-threading right
18 cores running at 700 megahertz.
now. Sure. That'd be awful.
I mean,
It's like your brain though, actually, because they're.
My brain ran into his brain.
No, it's just a human brain.
Yeah, I mean, I just built a computer and I definitely got the 6 cores in there. You know, like utilizing a full speed ahead.
6 cores with hyperthreading, you're fine. I mean,
yeah, that's push it.
You're good.
Push it. Yeah, just do it.
Reminder to folks that we are taking questions from the RSI subscriber chat on robertspaceindustrials.com. You can submit your questions there. We also collected some questions from our subscribers' den in the forum. That's where some of these questions have been coming from today. Another question from that thread. Can you guys tell us something about an upcoming feature that you're looking forward to?
Ooh.
What's something on the horizon you're looking forward to that, not spoiler or something?
See, all mine would be super spoilers.
I mean, I'm a big FPS fan. I always have been, right? Going back to before, but GoldenEye, right? And then and Counter-Strike and all those good ones. So I've always had a little in my heart.
Why
like
you
a
laugh
special
at
place.
GoldenEye? GoldenEye is like
GoldenEye's awesome.
No, I played GoldenEye.
FPS is a little, thank you, a little closer to my heart.
Yep, GoldenEye habe ich auch noch gespielt.
Ich nicht.
Whatever, but I can sit down and cry.
GoldenEye, Counter-Strike.
Some stuff. So I'm personally.
Das war Georg, ja.
I'm really enjoying playing it. I think it's got a lot to offer, and I think this it's only going to get better from the first time we introduce it. Again, we've got it in the game already, right? So you can get some basic
Ich habe Tech-Ops gespielt.
functionality of running around and shooting people, which I'm already loving when I'm in our
Und das
map
bei
now.
GoldenEye habe
But I
ich
think it's
gezockt.
cool to have that mode. That's something I'm
Battlefield.
personally very excited about. I'm a huge deathmatch fan, so I enjoy ranking up the kills.
To go with that, I think something that in the future that I'm kind of looking forward to is I want to be boarded. I want some ship.
I know.
I want that FPS. I want you to be able to get into my ship. And
Borden,
start
ne?
firing,
Das
defend that
wird
ship.
auch sicher interessant.
I mean, I think that would be super.
Ja.
I'm sorry.
Totally. No, I don't. I'm just the whole multi-crew aspect of our game. But yeah, we're gonna talk about that. That's stuff I'm excited about. I can live on my ship.
What's your favorite?
It's not very sexy by any stretch of the imagination. Object
Air
container
swap?
streaming.
Oh, that's a big one.
Object Container.
Seriously, that's
Sexy,
one of the biggest.
aber
like,
Object Container Streaming.
that is as big as the 2.0 rollout. The mini PU stuff. Once that's online, the universe is our oyster, basically.
Was war das nochmal?
yeah.
Genau.
Do you want to just
Pretty much
kind
the
of
one.
That's a
Can
big
you
one.
just give them a brief?
Matthias.
Wow, I mean,
Object Container Streaming, das sind quasi die Levels dann im Universe, die sich reinladen. Das heißt, Streaming, dass du alles ohne Ladescreen hast.
Ja, okay.
Und das ist echt, das ist super.
Dann brauchst du nicht so viel auf der Platte, sondern du kriegst es dann hochgeladen, wenn du es brauchst. Sozusagen.
Na, du hast kein Ladescreen, sondern es wird ständig reingeladen, das Zeug, reingestreamt.
Spatial partitioning systems within there. Physics system had one. Render has one.
there's a bunch of different ones. So the zone system, you know, this is getting to be a very unsexy explanation, but the zone system was the unification.
But Sean, at the same time, it is some of the most sexiest stuff, right? Like
is
the
it
stuff you don't see? Yeah.
Yeah, no, and it's the stuff that you don't see, but it
incredible.
takes so much
Absolutely
work. Zone partition system's not hard. It's hard to make them fast, and it's hard to get them to talk to each other if they're different.
Yeah.
So what we had done was first get the zone system online, and you've probably heard a lot about that, but what that is a more advanced partitioning system that actually unifies them all across all the modules. So physics uses the same as uses the renderer, uses the same as this. So then you've got to embed those partition systems into a container of sorts that composes a bunch of assets. Now you might have multiple zones within that one object container, but you've got to load them all at the same time, basically.
Sure.
So an object container is exactly like what Forrest is saying. It's just it's a container for objects. But what we have to be able to do is to be able to stream them in and out without keeping them in memory. Basically, on level load, we can't have them all there.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So we need to be able to stream them in and out dynamically. We can do it with prefabs. We can do it with entity archetypes, but nothing to the scale of the object containers. We can do it with small scale ones right now, but it's a little bit slow when it gets pretty hefty. So that's what Stephen Humphrey's been working his rear off working on it. So that streaming is actually very quick, and it gets all those assets.
The type of objects that go into the container, a great example is like the space station.
Yeah.
Right. That's we want those things could be massive, and we need to officially stream those in, right?
Sure, and it's not just the station asset. It's like
everything.
The station asset, the shop in it, the character in it, the gun that he's holding,
all
the attachments on the weapon that he's holding.
Yeah.
So there's a huge hierarchical load that has to happen,
Yeah.
and a lot of this, and it just CryEngine conceptually. You would do all this on level load.
Yeah.
You would do.
That's what I was just gonna say. It's
extensions.
almost like
You
in
would
the
do-
past you work with level streaming, and we're almost like we need to go so far past that because we're
Yes.
endless. We needed to stream objects in, and it's
Yeah.
almost like they are levels. So it's almost this
That's
like
exactly what an object
incredibly
container is,
impressive
yeah.
level streaming system with level inside of a level. Like,
Right, that's exactly how I explain it now too. Is that if anybody had worked on a CryEngine project or worked in the CryEngine before, or even on any other
Any game engine,
level
level
editor,
stream, yeah.
the object container is the equivalent of just that level.
Yeah, that level
completely.
stream.
But it exists in the paradigm of a larger level.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's,
And I'm sure we're told. I'm sure
it's
we're
kinda
mucking
crazy.
it up. I'm sure the people that write this stuff are like,
Yeah, Humphreys is going. Man.
He's watching right now. Very naughty, Dave.
Aber auch Probleme
Love you,
werden,
Dave. We're
was?
super excited for what you're working on.
No, it's pretty
Aber
close,
Probleme
but
werden.
again, the object container thing, it's essential for capital ships, it's essential for universities.
Was meinst du mit
so
Probleme
you
werden?
go from planet 1 to planet
Wenn du so
2,
eine Massenschlacht
cities
hast
on
mit
the
großen
next
Capital
step.
Ships,
And that's how it's all gonna
Dann
work.
brauchst du das Innere nicht reinzustreamen. Nur wenn du reingehst.
Well, I just
Kurz
want to ask
bevor.
a
Ja, eben.
question about object
wenn
containers.
Leute da schwache Leitungen
Is there really an
haben,
object container question next?
nee.
Oh, that's hilarious.
That's why I gave Forrest
Ja, die Rechner haben weniger Probleme, weil sie nicht alles reinstreamen müssen, was sie
basically,
nicht
you
brauchen.
covered everything else. The only part that's left of their question is about the size.
Du musst nur das reinstreamen, was du siehst. Und darum geht's, deswegen, das machen sie so effizient damit.
No, I was
Ja,
already.
ich weiß, hab ich
So
verstanden.
I'm saying I'm most excited about the streaming coming online, and by the way, it works pretty much.
Yeah.
So it's not like this is a tough nut that we haven't been able to crack yet. We've cracked it.
Oh, it's cracked.
It's just we've got to figure out what we can get out of it. So we don't yet know exactly the size that we want to make them. We've tried various sizes. I mean, I've put a singular character into one, and we have capital ships in one. So we need to set those budgets. The other difficult thing about it, and if anybody's worked on a game project, they'll understand this, but managing level budgets. So not per view budgets, but everything in the level, you've got to make sure that designer 1 knows, oh yeah, you just added 10 megs. Designer 2 knows, oh yeah, you just took away 4 meg. We need a way of budgeting those designers on being able to do certain things or not do other things. And we can't yet tell them until the streaming is working exactly as we need it, what the optimum size of that container needs to be, what kind of assets can go in there, what kind of ones don't, should they be separate, all those kind of rules, and that's really actively what we're doing over the last few weeks anyways.
and in the end, it really comes down to a numbers game.
Totally.
Right? Profiling at the very end.
Er hat jetzt gerade das erwähnt, was ich gerade gesagt
This is the
hatte.
numbers you have to work with, and you have to stay within your budget.
Sure.
Was meinst du?
Das Problem, wenn sich zwei große Korps auf die Fresse hauen.
One of the final
Should
questions
done.
here.
Da sind sie gerade jetzt beim Herausfinden, eben, dass sie die Sachen optimieren, um rauszufinden, wie groß sie werden können, was sie reinbringen.
Yeah, and it's all extendable. It's all user defined, so the artist defines it. I haven't measured some of the ones that we have in there right now, but absolutely, I would think that would be a big part of it. I think one of the big reasons they made them pretty shallow was just the amount of time that it took to get down. Yeah. So I think if they did it realistically, it would just take a long time. But yeah, I mean, short answer is that it's actually just a setting.
And what's cool, I think that I completely didn't even think of until I realized it did it, is they do put some code in there that makes sure that the engine knows when you're within the atmosphere and when you're outside of the atmosphere. And that allows us to do a lot of cool things, probably down the road with some gameplay support. Like, I mean, if you're flying in, what is the flight system when you're outside in space? And then if you notice, we have a different flight system when you're actually on the planet stuff. And that's how you know is that atmosphere and the code that they put in there to tell us when you're in and when you're out. And then we could probably start transitioning the effects in. What do effects look like? Contrails on ships, all this stuff that would happen inside of an atmosphere that may not be as realistic maybe in space, right? So that's something I'm really excited about.
Does a bullet go slower in atmosphere?
Right,
Which it
totally.
probably would.
And I mean, we teased some of that in Homestead, but that was the idea, right? When we have that reaction, planetary reaction to the ship, and John Pritchett, I know, one of our physics engineers, very, very smart, talented guy. That's what he's been working on a lot, right? Not just how the Dragonfly works on a planet, but now also how does your ship fly in there? Would ships fly in atmosphere better than fly in space? And these are all great things that we're starting to develop, and I think gives a lot of opportunities, really exciting opportunities. It's really cool.
One other thing along the lines of what Forrest was saying was, so it knows whether you're in the atmosphere or not. What it also knows about is the gravity around the planet. So that's super cool. The fact that there's even there's a small fall off that happens in there as well. So we have a variable amount of gravity on every single one of these planets. What we don't necessarily show in Homestead is the funny thing that happens to all of us.
Variable
So we're flying
Gravitation.
around in the atmosphere, whatever. You're in a connie and then you get out of your seat, right? But your ship turns off. So this is one of the item 2.0 things. Anyways, we're going to leave the ships on or give you the ability or something like this. But yeah, as soon as your ship turns off, guess what? Gravity's on. So you're walking to the back of your ship and you don't realize you're actually hurtling towards the freaking ground, whatever rate. And then you get halfway.
Also nicht aufstehen und alle Instrumente abschalten, wenn in der Atmosphäre ist.
Ist nur aktuell. Es kommt mit Item 2.0, wirst nachher das Schiff eingeschalten lassen können und aussteigen. Ja, du könntest dann immer noch das Schiff ausschalten und
Also wenn der Energiekern getroffen ist, hast du ein Problem in der Atmosphäre.
Oder bist gebordet worden und du willst, dass es abstürzt.
Ja, so.
Das ist cool.
Ja.
Right, and all the things we have to re-implement because of that change. I'm gonna make your show super overtime. So, like a nice example is what we ran into with the cloth for the Nomad.
Yes.
I think this is a perfect way to explain like what happened.
Oder fällt mir der Szene von Star Wars von Episode 3, wo sie abstürzen mit dem Frontteil von einem Raumschiff. Ob das dann auch geht.
Cool when he's standing on a perfectly solid plane that has set up. Yeah, cloth is falling downwards, right? However, if you happen to be on the bottom of a planet, no longer Z up, but you're like this, right? So the whole cloth simulation system was assuming Z up. So it thought the gravity was going this way. So as you stood up, your cloth was coming straight up from your head like this, right? So, it looked absolutely ridiculous. And it was totally different depending on where you were on this planet because all of a sudden you're upside down and the engine just had no idea about that. So.
Pretty much Mardi Gras.
Yeah, exactly. And that happened for a lot of different systems. So luckily, Evo Herteg already put a fix in for that. So that was not a dramatic change that had to happen. But it's so many things like this.
You don't even think about the discovery process, right? And I think that's what we were talking about earlier, not just
Das wird so übel, ne?
planning phases, but just going through this. Some exciting discoveries.
jetzt hat er Zeit über halt Probleme, die sie gehabt haben mit der Gravity.
Ja.
Dass die auf der anderen Seite genau verkehrt rum war.
Das ist halt wie wenn du was reinwirfst in ein Objekt und das unten rauskommt, wie bei der Retaliator. Oben rein und unten raus.
designers place win entities over an entire planet. That way it kind of moves, you know, now you need a system that's more proc that can actually make sure that the wind is curving around the planet properly and working. It's just all these little things, but that's the fun of it and that's the challenge. But once the foundation's built, and then we're really sprinting.
These
towards the finish line.
planetary-sized little things. That's what I love about that.
Planetary-sized little things, yeah.
And with that, that brings our October subscriber edition town hall to a close. Thank you so much to Eric Kyron Davis, for Stefan and Sean Tracy. If you're interested in learning even more about our procedural generation system, tune into Around the Verse tomorrow. Emanates from our Frankfurt office, and you'll see some even more information about the procedural
And thank
system.
you, Jared.
And thank you, Jared.
Thank you, Jared.
As
Thank you,
always.
Jared. I just sit here and read the questions.
Good, Jared.
So, again, Eric, Forrest, Sean, I'm Jared. Thanks for watching, guys.
Ja, das war die Subscriber Town Hall. So, ich mache mal kurz meinen Stream dann auch aus und mache ihn kurz wieder an. Dann streame ich noch etwa eine Stunde oder so. Ich glaube, der Javik wollte was mit Joystick erklärt haben. Ich frage mal, ob ich das während dem Stream mit ihm machen kann. Dann, oder Matthias und ich mit ihm zusammen, wenn noch da ist, Matthias. Und ja, also ich starte, beende kurz und beende den geschwind um und dann starte ich wieder.
Jo, mach ich auch.
Jo.